Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the inaugural session of the World University Summit, organized by the Jindal Global Center for G20 Studies and International Institute for Higher Education Research and Capacity Building of OP Jindal Global University. I extend a very warm welcome to our distinguished guests, esteemed speakers, and members of the audience who have joined us today. Our theme for this year's summit is Universities of the Future, building institutional resilience, social responsibility, and community impact in G20 studies. Today, as we begin our inaugural session, I'm pleased to welcome our chief guest, Shri V. MURALEEDHARAN, Honorable Minister of State of External Affairs, Government of India. I am also pleased to welcome Professor Dr. Pankaj Mittal, Secretary General Association of Indian Universities, Professor Dr. C. Raj Kumar, Founding Vice Chancellor, OP Jindal Global University, Professor Dr. Mohan Kumar, Dean and Director, Jindal Global Center for G20 Studies, and Professor Dr. Maushumi Mukherjee, Associate Professor and Deputy Director, International Institute for Higher Education Research and Capacity Building at OP Jindal Global University. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. As we begin our inaugural session, I invite Professor Dr. C. Raj Kumar, Founding Vice Chancellor of OP Jindal Global University, to please present the welcome address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Surabhi. I join my colleague Surabhi in extending a warm welcome to all of you to join us in this 5-day virtual World University Summit on the theme Universities of the Future, Building Institutional Resilience, Social Responsibility and Community Impact in G20 countries. This summit is, for a change, hosted by a newly established center called the Jindal Global Center for G20 Studies, which is a center established at OP Jindal Global University in collaboration with the International Institute for Higher Education Research and Capacity Building. The World University Summit was conceptualized by OP Jindal Global University with a vision to create a platform for universities worldwide to come together to help share the focus and imagination for what a university could be in the future. Technological advancements, pedagogical and disciplinary innovations, academic research, combined with globalization and deeper social engagement are now changing the way higher education institutions function. Institutional reform in this direction inevitably would require risk-taking, innovation, and of course, learning from the past. There is one thing that all of us that we learned from the past, especially during the COVID years, and I dare say, hopefully COVID is behind us, is our ability to withstand extraordinary challenges and overcome them with a deep sense of resilience. We need to reimagine the universities of the future to strengthen their vision and commitment towards institutional resilience, social responsibility, and community impact. Our first virtual summit essentially happened in 2020. It congregated over 80 plus thought leaders from 6 continents and 15 countries, academics from 55 plus universities and colleges around the world, with nearly 40 present and former vice chancellors, provosts, rectors, presidents, and founding deans of institutions were present, including esteemed academics and senior leadership from national, regional, and international organizations, including the Association of Commonwealth Universities, International Association of Universities, Times Higher Education, Society for Transnational Academic Research Network, Cochrane Cements, the QS, and the Qatar Foundation. Our second summit happened in 2021, which congregated over 150 plus thought leaders from 6 continents and 25 countries. Academics from over 100 universities and, of course, senior leadership joined along with ACU, the International Association of Universities, THE, and QS, and, of course, the Qatar Foundation and the STAR Network. This year, even though we are hopefully in a post-pandemic world, we continue to commit ourselves to the idea of the World University Summit. This summit has brought to bear university leaders as well as presidents, chancellors, and rectors, and other institutional leaders from G20 countries to envisage the universities of the future across 30 thematic sessions. I'm happy to report that we have over 175 speakers from 100 plus universities and institutions across 6 continents, especially from the G20 countries. This year's edition is an important one, which coincides with India's presidency of the G20 Forum. The overall focus of this year's summit will therefore be, to a large extent, on G20 countries and how their higher education systems is coping with local, regional, and global challenges. Let me quickly articulate some of the big challenges that we are facing in the world of universities. First, the historically evolved challenge that continues to essentially occupy much of the university system's imagination and attention is the most important part of how we inspire and educate and empower our students, and what kind of knowledge and knowledge creation and scholarship and publications that will emerge out of universities. Teaching versus research has been a very, very critical focus of a lot of universities around the world. India is no exception. These debates continue to occupy both the mindset of institutions as well as regulatory bodies. The challenge is that, and to a large extent, universities have to fulfill its own institutional responsibility to provide world-class education for the students who are dependent upon that education. In the same vein, universities have a responsibility also to create new knowledge, to be able to address the big problems of our time, to be able to create solutions for some of the most difficult challenges that we are facing, including challenges faced in relation to STEM, as well as medicine, liberal arts, humanities, social sciences, and other professional disciplines such as law and architecture. In fact, if there is one thing that the pandemic has taught, is that universities have a very big role to engage in cutting-edge research. For most of us, especially in India, the vaccine that we have had with regard to Covishield, it was created by researchers at the University of Oxford. We as a society need to invest in universities so that universities are able to engage in fundamental research that are able to address the problems of our time. The second aspect of what the universities of the future will be facing is with regard to holistic education and specialized education. At one level, there is a very strong thought process that we need to align our education system through the job opportunities that are available. We need to focus on outcomes-based learning. We need to have opportunities for our students so that their degrees and the education that they receive in universities should lead to jobs and opportunities for their livelihood. This remains a significant part of the objective of education all over the world, especially in developed countries. At the same time, the intrinsic nature of education also requires us to have the responsibility to provide holistic education. We cannot afford to ignore the wider world of humanities and social sciences, where job opportunities, while critical, are also necessary for us to have fundamental investment towards knowledge. Many aspects of that knowledge creation may not immediately align itself to jobs, and that process will take time, and every society will have to make those choices. At the same time, a functional approach towards education whereby all our educational processes, including vision, to be purely aligned to jobs and jobs that are visible and immediately available, will mistake the very objective of education. And hence, as the national education policy in India beautifully has outlined, we need to emphasize on holistic education, an education that not only focuses on STEM and medicine, but also gives equal importance to humanities and social sciences. The third aspect of the future, I believe, is the ongoing struggle with regard to national versus international. While the evolution of the education systems across the world has geared towards promoting internationalization, it continues to face the challenge of resources. A large number of developing countries in India, unfortunately, will have to focus a lot more on what it does within its boundaries. That also means that internationalization will end up becoming the privilege of the few, even in these countries. So the question that we have before us, the challenge that we have before us is that to what extent we can bridge the gap between the national and the international. To what extent we can create opportunities for students across the developing world to pursue international opportunities. To what extent internationalization can be fashioned so that it does not become the privilege for the few. To what extent internationalization can be more democratic, more inclusive, and take into account different aspirations as well. It also means that to what extent our national policies, our national regulations, our assessment, accreditation, and benchmarking efforts are also aligned with the idea that we need to benchmark our institutions with the best in the world. The national and the international need to go hand in hand and together so that we can have the maximum impact on the future. The fourth big challenge that we continue to face in India, but also in several other parts of the world, is the dichotomy and the dilemma between the public and the private. While a lot is said about this issue, the challenge remains that education, in the Indian context especially, has unfortunately created barriers. The barriers that exist between the public and the private need to be addressed. For all the developments that have happened, including reforms that have taken place in the world of education, the reality is the public versus private discourse remains a strong part of the concerns that many, both in public and private universities, have said before. Now, what is the argument on both sides? The first and the most important part of the argument is that education ought to be a public good, education ought to contribute towards common good, education ought to be accessible and affordable, and hence the state has to invest in education so that it can provide public education at a relatively low cost so that a large number of its population is able to access it. The argument from the private sector has been historically is that, well, the state has not been able to fulfill this responsibility. The state has not been able to increase the GDP investment in higher education. The state has been systematically abdicating its responsibility towards education, and hence we need more and more institutions. And since the public sector is not able to fulfill that, we have ended up having and developing the private sector. The evolution of Indian higher education sector is a good example of how private universities have emerged. But the fact is, it is also true that a large number of private universities have not been able to fulfill their goals and aspirations towards promoting excellence. And it is in this context that we need to reimagine the future, where the public and the private are able to do their own things together, where both public and private universities are advancing the vision of public service and common good, and they are aligned with the larger objectives of enlightened national and international interest with a view to advancing the cause of education. And this, I believe, will occupy the larger part of imagination of especially the developing countries, because to a large extent, the state does not have resources to support the establishment of public universities. And we are also conscious that we should not end up creating mediocre, for-profit private universities, both of which are inimical to the vision of the future of universities. And the fifth aspect, I believe, is about dealing with internal and external stakeholders, both in terms of vision, mission, aspiration, goals, as well as experiences. Universities are unique institutions. They are not like any other institution. They are not like a typical corporation. They are not like a non-governmental organization. They are not like any government agencies. They are unique organizations which have its own unique set of values, which I believe are central to the idea of a university. These set of unique values, I believe, are changing. And one of the challenges that has been pose to the world of university is the extraordinary and tectonic shifts that have taken place due to technology. Today, we are increasingly living in a world in which the fundamental mission of what university education ought to be providing has been challenged due to the developments in science and technology. While ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, robotics, and machine learning are emerging technologies, we still have a long way to go for us to fully understand and appreciate the impact of these technologies on the world of education. All I can say is that we should be mindful of this evolution. We should be conscious of the changes that are going to happen, but we should not waver from the fundamental mission that all of us have as university leaders, as well as educators, which is to educate, empower, and transform our society through the minds of young people who are part of our institution, to be able to engage in research that can address the challenges of our society. If these two critical objectives of our university system is protected, then I believe we will be better placed to address the technological challenges and other such challenges that we're going to face in the future. I want to end by saying that this World University Summit has received extraordinary support from all across India and from around the world. I am grateful to the Ministry of Education, Government of India, for recognizing this summit under the G20 framework, and we have got extraordinary support from the Ministry of Education, including the Honorable Minister, the Cabinet Minister, Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan, but also the Minister of State, who will be the chief guest at our valedictory session. I'm deeply grateful to the chief guest at the inaugural session, SHRI MURALEEDHARAN, who is the Honorable Minister for External Affairs, Government of India. I'm also deeply grateful and welcome Dr. Pankaj Mittal, the Secretary General of the Association of Indian Universities, under whose leadership the AIU has reimagined and transformed itself as one of the most democratic, inclusive, and imaginative organizations, which is today at the cutting edge of promoting innovations in the university system. It has brought together vice chancellors as well as other leaders across the Indian university system for contributing to change, and in that process impacting the world of universities in the future. So with those words, I would like to once again extend a warm welcome to all of you. For all those students, faculty members, professors, and leaders who are watching us live on Facebook and YouTube, I extend a warm welcome to all of you. I know that this forum has the opportunity to connect with the world at large. Please send in your questions. We have our entire team working tirelessly hard to ensure that the conference has a meaningful impact on the world of universities. This World University Summit is one such example of how innovation, especially during COVID, can outlive the COVID years and are still able to connect the world of universities in these extraordinarily difficult, challenging, and indeed promising times. Thank you to all of you. And once again, my heartiest congratulations and warm welcome to the World University Summit and the G20 Higher Education Forum. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I now invite Professor Dr. Mohan Kumar, Dean and Director, Jindal Global Center for G20 Studies, to please share the introductory remarks. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Surabhi. Let me extend a warm welcome as well on behalf of the G20 Center, to which I have just been appointed by the Vice Chancellor as the inaugural director. This is the very first event. I'd like to thank him for the guidance and the support, but we are also extremely proud to start off the year with this particular event. Honorable Minister of State for External Affairs, SHRI MURALEEDHARAN ji, founding Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. C. Raj Kumar, Dr. Pankaj Mittal, Secretary General of the Association of Indian Universities, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to just be very brief after that wonderful opening remarks by Professor Dr. C. Raj Kumar. I want to stand between you and Professor Dr. Pankaj Mittal and then the Minister of State. I believe the universities of the future face two fundamental challenges. The challenge number one is really to see how universities can be relevant to the workplace. And that is the most important for me. I think you will have to look at the curriculum. You'll have to look at the infrastructure. You will have to look at whether practitioners can play a role. I think we will have to look at the entire ecosystem of the university to make sure that the education that we impart stays relevant to the persons who receive it so that they can do better at the workplace. The second, in a context such as India, is obviously how universities can offer inclusive education on the basis of principles like equity and social justice. I'm particularly happy to note that there are a couple of panels, at least a couple of panels on this subject, and it'll be interesting to share practices, exchange views on these important issues with the universities of the G20 countries. I think the Vice Chancellor has already spoken about the number of universities and the top leaders who are going to participate. I think this is an intellectual extravaganza that no educationist should miss, frankly. It's amazing how, as he says, we've been able to bring everybody on a single platform, and that is, I think, the wonderful use of technology. I think the theme of the World University Summit, the third edition, is obviously institutional resilience, social responsibility, and community impact. And I'm going to just take half a minute each on each of these three issues, which constitute the fundamental theme for the third edition of the World University Summit. Institutional resilience. I think COVID was a wake-up call, frankly. For several universities, it was a question of trying to get the infrastructure, make sure the digital infrastructure works, make sure that university continues to operate. We at Jindal Global University were obviously more lucky, but even for us, it was a great challenge to make sure that students received the education we did. In terms of the future, I think we're going to have two important things to keep in mind. One, this is not the last pandemic. Nobody believes this is the last pandemic. So we will have to be ready and fully ready the next time around something like this happens. The second is obviously things like artificial intelligence and ChatGPT. I've already finished a midterm exam for my students yesterday, and we just went back to the pencil and paper method. We made sure there are no take-home exams, no electronic gadgets. So it was a question of going back to the Flintstonian age, if you like. But those are the kind of challenges that we are going to face. That is what I want to really underline. In terms of social responsibility, I'm particularly proud to say that the Jindal Global University has a social service society, which has been doing extraordinary work. I thought to myself that if there are 1,000-odd universities in India, and there are only 776 districts in India, imagine the difference we can make if each university adopted a district and did something. I'm not saying every university is capable of complete transformation in a district, but at least something if they can do in a district. Imagine the community impact that this will have. I think we should really be thinking along those lines. I think this is a great opportunity also to find out from the G20 countries, the universities there, what they are doing in terms of social responsibility and community impact. I want to conclude once again by saying I cannot wait to follow the sessions. Every educationist, every student, as I said, will benefit from this wonderful, wonderful World University Summit. I want to thank everyone for the support. And once again, thank you, Surabhi, for this opportunity. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. I am so pleased to invite Professor Dr. Pankaj Mittal, Secretary General, Association of Indian Universities, to please share the special address with us. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Surabhi. Thank you very much. First of all, let me take this opportunity to congratulate Dr. Raj for organizing this World Education Summit, which he is, this is the third summit and which he is doing it very regularly, and all the World University Summits have been very, very successful. And I had the opportunity to be a part of the earlier two summits also. And thanks for inviting me yet another summit. And all of them were really, really very good. And you have seen the number of participants, and this time it is coinciding with the G20 presidency of India, and the G20 nations are here in this summit, although virtually, but eventually physically also they will be here. So the first and foremost, thanks to Dr. Raj for inviting me here and for organizing this particular World's University Summit. The topic is very pertinent: future of the universities, how the universities of future would be. When we talk of the future of the universities, we talk of the future of the students, we talk of future of the teachers, what the students will be wanting, what the teachers will be wanting, what the future learning systems would be, and what are the aspirations of the students. So when we talk about the aspirations of the students, what does a student today want? What are his aspirations? First, I think the students want to be lifelong learners. They don't want to be ending their learning with the university or the college or the institution where they are studying, but they want to be lifelong learners, because the future is changing so fast that unless they remain lifelong learners, they will not be able to sustain. So the first, students want to be lifelong learners. Second, they want to be innovative and creative, because when Dr. Mohan was talking about chat GPT and all, you know that unless you are innovative and creative, you cannot survive. So students want to be innovative and creative. They want to be problem solvers. They want to be a part of the problem. They want to be a part of the solution. So they want to be problem solver and solution providers. So this is the today's student, the aspirations of the students of today. They want to take risk. It's not that they want to have a very, very safe life or a very, very protected life. They want to take risks. They want to learn from mistakes and then proceed further. So student of today wants to take risk, proceed further. The student of today wants to progress fast. Slow is not in their dictionary anymore. They want to progress very, very fast. Then they also understand they cannot work alone. They have to work in teams. So how to work in teams, they learn, and eventually how to become a team leader, gaining the team leadership qualities. That is what they want. And above all these things, they want to be good human beings. So these are the aspirations of the students. And what are the challenges? There are challenges, are many, many. The challenges are of growing inequality in the society. The challenges are of failing economies. We have seen some of the countries like Sri Lanka, Greece, Cyprus, Pakistan. So there is a challenges. There are challenges of failing economies. There is a challenge of deteriorating environment, climate change. All these challenges are there. So how to balance the two? The aspiration of the students and the challenges faced by the community or the society or the world at large. So I feel that the universities have a big role in playing, the universities have a big role in taking care of these challenges while fulfilling the aspirations of the students. And that balance has to be created by the universities, and those will be the universities of future. And it is here where the new education policy of India comes in, because the new education policy of India talks about future universities. It talks about future of learning. It talks about future of jobs. It talks about how the universities of futures will look like, what to teach in the future, how to teach in the future, how to assess and evaluate the students in the future. Everything is being talked about in the policy. Like, for example, when you talk about what to teach. So in India, we are teaching a regular curriculum. Many of the universities are innovative and they are redesigning their curriculum every year or every 2 years or every 3 years. But there are universities who are not redesigning the curriculum for years together. So it is very, very important, because the future is totally different. Future of jobs, if you ask somebody that what will be the job scenario in say 2030, it will not be the type of jobs which we are doing today. It will be the type of jobs which will be, some of the jobs we cannot even imagine right now. The future is AI, future is robotics, future is virtual reality, augmented reality, future is IoT, future is drones, future is totally different. I mean, till now we were talking about domestic tourism or international tourism, future is space tourism. So future is totally different. So when future is different, we have to train our students differently. We have to teach them differently. The content has to be different. The way we are teaching them has to be different. Again, you are talking about Chat GPT. There is also one Bard from Google, and both are five. There's one test called Turing test. Turing test means whether AI machine is behaving like a human or not, and they are passing the Turing test. That Chat GPT 4, which is now coming, Bard, they are passing the Turing test. That slowly they are behaving like machines, humans. So what will happen? Suppose today you say that, okay, my future is coding. So if you tell Chat GPT, okay, this is the problem, and in this particular language, say in C++, you want a program or coding for this particular problem, a coding will come. The full program will be written by Chat GPT. Maybe there are some mistakes, but that can be corrected. But a lot of work, if I want to say, today I was speaking in World University Summit. If I say that I'm going to speak in World University Summit, created by Jindal Global University by Professor Raj Kumar, give me a speech, because I don't know what to speak in that summit. It will give me a speech that, okay, speak this. I'm not speaking from that particular thing, but then there is a possibility that you get a speech from the Chat GPT. So these are the things which are existing now. So that means, like many a times it is said that now our the PS which we have, who takes care of our diaries, who takes care of our appointments, dictations and letters and all that will be done by a bot, because that bot will be sitting as a machine in my office, speaking like a human being, fixing my appointments. And then those fixing of appointments will be so intelligently done that there will be no overlapping also, even if there are 3-4 people whose time schedules have to be taken into account. So the future is totally different. So therefore the students have to be prepared totally different. So that will be the future universities. We don't even know that the future universities will be in this brick and mortar structures or not. There will be universities in the cloud. There are teachers in the cloud. There are universities in the cloud. There will be students in the cloud. So the future is going to be different. Now, this is what to teach. Means the curriculum has to be innovative, creative. The students have to be prepared not for one thing, but they have to be prepared as a base so that they can do multiple things in future. Second, the way we teach. In India, normally we follow a lecture method. In the class, the teacher comes, gives the lecture, and at hope students are going and studying and analyzing and rationalizing. But most of the countries, G20 countries, it's a flipped classroom model in which the student is not, the teacher is not teaching in the class, the teacher is working like a facilitator. The audios, videos, text is given to the students in advance, and they study and they come in the class. And what happens in the class? Only the discussions happens, problem solving happens, rationalization happens, reasoning happens. So the understanding is better. So in Indian universities, it is included in national education policy also, that it will be a total different way of teaching in the class. Teachers will be working like a facilitator. A very new concept of ABC has emerged. ABC is Academic Bank of Credit. In Academic Bank of Credit, a lot of flexibility is given to the students, and the students are, I sometimes say students are treated like kings. Like they have so much of choice, what to study, from where to study, when to study, everything. I mean, almost all choices are there. And in this, the student is doing multiple courses from multiple universities, and they can stitch their own degrees. They can design their own degrees. This is the future. In our times, we could never think of it that we'll be stitching our own degree. So right now, student, whatever he or she wants to learn, it was always said that India has a system which is not very, very flexible. It is a rigid system where a student enters into a program and he or she has to do the program the courses of the program as per the structure of that program. There is no flexibility to the student. So a medical student cannot study history, an engineering student cannot study medicine, a history student cannot study, say, physics. But now it is possible with the new national education policy, and especially the Academic Bank of Credit concept, which is sort of a very, very creative and innovative concept in which the students can be designing their own degrees. We are also talking of National Digital University. In National Digital University, again, the students can be doing courses from multiple universities, and then this NDL will be giving a degree to the student, and where the student is himself or herself residing, that what I will want to study for getting this degree. Similarly, we are also changing the way the assessment and evaluation of the students would be there. We know that 3-hour examination at the end of the semester is not the right way of assessing and evaluating the students. We also saw during COVID how difficult it was to hold a 3-hour examination, and there were multiple solutions from multiple vendors on how to have a proctored online examination. Jindal itself did many proctored online examinations, and but then we also understand that NEP also says that this is not the right way of examining a student at the end of the semester, a 3-hour examination. So it has to be a continuous assessment and evaluation throughout the semester, not through one way, but multiple ways. It could be activities, it could be projects, it could be assignments, it could be face-to-face interviews, it could be group discussions. So multiple ways are there to assess and evaluate the students. So all this is going to be the future. We are talking of creative thinking, we are talking of design thinking. So the future is going to be different. Therefore, the future universities have to be different. So recently, like last 3 years, I was in a conference which was held by the AIU. We call it AIU National Vice Chancellors Conference. Around 500 Vice Chancellors of India attended the conference. And the theme of the conference was Transformative Higher Education for Atmanirbhar Bharat. And again, the sessions were all basically on future of education, that how the future universities would be like. So some of the takeaways from the conference again were, for example, one was that we are talking of demographic dividend because India is a young country. Our average age is 29 years. But this demographic dividend is not going to last forever, because eventually India will be aging, because the growth rate of India is now reducing. So there are less children than grown-ups, and it will be further changing. The bulge which is appearing right now at the center will be further moving upwards. So while the demographic dividend is lasting, we have to take the maximum advantage of this demographic dividend. And who will be responsible for taking maximum advantage? These are the universities, who are preparing our students, who are preparing our young graduates to shape the destiny of the nation, to shape the future of the nation. So universities have a great responsibility in taking advantage of this demographic dividend. Therefore, they have to work fast. They have to work in partnerships. So when I say partnerships, like we have G20 nations today in this particular summit, so we have to work in partnerships. We don't have to work in silos, even within the country. For example, right now we have silos of school education, higher education, technical education, vocational education. All this has to integrate. So we don't have to work in silos. We have to work in partnerships. We have to work fast. So universities have the primary responsibility if our demographic dividend has to be taken leverage of. Second, there was a very interesting takeaway. We are talking about the exit policy in our national education policy, exit policy for the programs. Like the students should be having an exit policy after first year, second year, third year. But then one issue came, what about the exit policy of the institutions? When can we create an exit policy for the institutions which are very small with 50 or 100 enrollment, the institutions which are not working? Exit policy for the teachers who are not working, who are not teaching, who are not evolving themselves. So what about the exit policy of that? So we need to have an exit policy for them, while ensuring that the universities are not only taking care of the students within the four walls of the university, but they're also taking care of the students who are outside the four walls of the university, that is the community. So they have to take care of the community, and universities should be contributing a lot in the development of the community around it. They can be doing it in multiple ways. We have a very good program of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, which is run by IIT Delhi, where they are trying to help the community by customizing technologies for the community, for developing new technologies for the community. But then there are many ways. UGC also has a scheme of fostering social responsibility, in which the universities are given funding to help the community, to do community-based research, to involve community practitioners as teachers in their campuses. So this is very important. Thirdly, in our country, Mahatma Gandhi gave a concept of Sarvodaya, that everybody should rise together. So the concept of Sarvodaya, we need to take care of each student, each and every student, and especially the student who is standing in the last row of the class. We have students in the remote areas. We have students in the, say, backward areas, small border area, universities or colleges. So we have, whenever we follow policies, we have to take care of all the students, but especially the students who are standing in the last row, the students who are studying in the backward areas or remote areas or rural areas. So that is very important. Then there was a lot of emphasis on the internationalization. It was very well understood that without internationalization, we will not be able to move further towards a quality or a world-class education, because co-learning is very important. Partnerships are very important. Even in research, you will see that if the field citation index is seen, the papers who have international collaboration, the research papers which are written in collaboration with an international author, they have higher field citation index. So therefore, it is very, very important that partnerships should be there between Indian universities and international universities, but those partnerships should be sustainable partnerships. So we need MOUs which are active MOUs. We don't need MOUs which are paper MOUs, or which are sort of, just for the sake of it, we are having those MOUs. So we need to invest a lot of time, energy, and money on internationalization. It will not come on its own. It is not easy. I can vouch for Dr. Raj, how much time he is spending on internationalization, how much energy he is spending on that. So time, energy, and money is to be spent on internationalization of higher education for sustainable partnerships. And there is a need to have even like global affairs office in every university. In India, we do not have a global affairs office in every university. We call it international students office or global affairs office, but it is important. But what should be the structure of that office, how it should look like? The deliberations were there in the conference, and we will be taking it further also. Like we do have we have recently established an Indian network of international higher educators, INHI we call it, where we are wanting to handhold the Indian universities who are wanting to do internationalization, but who are not very good in internationalization, who have the intent to do internationalization. So that is something, again, which we are looking forward to. Then one very, very important thing which came up was that if universities have to progress fast, they have to have a visionary leadership. You have seen the growth of Jindal under the visionary leadership of Dr. Raj. So we need to have visionary leadership. The Government of India again formed a very good scheme called LEAP, which was known as Leadership for Academicians Program, in which the potential leaders were given training 2 years in domestic universities and 1 year in international universities on how to administer or how to govern a university efficiently. So visionary leadership is very, very important. Then there was a talk on that the students need to be skilled not only for finding jobs, but also for entrepreneurship, for startups, for incubation centers, for technology transfer, for production. After technology transfer, you have to do the production. So the innovativeness should be translated into entrepreneurship for the students. Not only, we keep on talking about the employment rate, but of employability and entrepreneurship. Then there was a talk about that education should not only prepare graduates who are academically brilliant, of course that is important, they are academically brilliant, but also learn practical skills to deal with real life situations. Holistic development of the students is important. So there has to be a movement from I to T to Pi, means the holistic development of the students is very, very important, rather than only focusing on academic brilliance. And then it was also felt that there should be a national research agenda, so that the universities know the pathway to research, or maybe the thrust areas which the country is looking after too. And very interesting terminology, one which came was API. In India, API, we normally talk about API score, academic performance score, but in pharmacy, it is active pharmaceutical ingredient. That what is the active pharmaceutical ingredient? But in future universities, it will be active pedagogical ingredient, like what type of active pedagogy is required for shaping the future universities. So all these things were discussed, and I think the future of universities is totally different from what it is today. And on G20, I would also like, because G20 nations are here, that while India is hosting the G20 presidency, many say bureaucrats or education ministers are coming to India. So we at Association of Indian Universities felt that apart from the bureaucrats, apart from the ministers, we should also invite the vice chancellors of G20 nations. So we are calling it Uni20, and thanks to the Ministry of Education, they have agreed to have Uni20 as a side event of E20, which is Education 20, and on 19th to 21st of June, because 22nd of June, the education ministers are meeting in Pune for the G20 summit. So on the sidelines of this E20 in Pune from 19th to 21st of June. We are holding the conference of vice chancellors of G20 nations and Indian nations. So the concept is that we'll be holding a conference called Uni20 in Pune, Symbiosis International University, in which the G20 nations vice chancellors will be invited. The invites have already gone. So the vice chancellors who are participating, if you consider coming, you are most welcome to attend that particular summit. And after that, for 3-4 days, we'll take you to different universities of India, the best universities of India, so that you can have a taste of Indian higher education, that the way Indian higher education is evolving. And then there will be a culmination event, most probably at Jindal itself, or maybe in some Delhi NCR region. So this is a week-long agenda for all of you, but you will have a real taste of Indian higher education, the best we are doing, the best universities of India, the innovations we are entering into. And I think it will be a very good opportunity for all of you. So please do come for Uni20 event. So with this, once again, I will thank Dr. Raj for inviting me here. And thanks to everybody, and congratulations for holding the World University Summit, which is really going on very well. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for such an insightful address. I'm delighted to invite our chief guest, Shri V. MURALEEDHARAN, Honorable Minister of State of External Affairs, to please present the inaugural address.
Professor Dr. Mohan Kumar, Dean and Director, Jindal Global Center for G20 Studies of the OP Jindal Global University, Professor Dr. Pankaj Mittal, Secretary General, Association of Indian Universities, all the Vice Chancellors of the G20 member countries participating in this summit, distinguished professors, academics, ladies and gentlemen, and dear students, Namaskaram and greetings to all of you. It's my pleasure to join you all at the inauguration of the 5-day virtual World Universities Summit. The theme of the summit, Universities of the Future, Building Institutional Resilience, Social Responsibility, and Community Impact in G20 countries, could not be more appropriate at a time when India has assumed the presidency of the G20. I wish to compliment the OP Jindal Global University for this initiative. I am glad to note that over 91 universities and 146 speakers who are vice chancellors, professors, and academics are participating in as many as 31 themes over the next 5 days. I am confident that this summit will produce substantive outcomes. This year assumes a special significance as we took the baton of G20 presidency. India's G20 presidency aims to be a presidency of healing, harmony, and hope in this tumultuous time. Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has called for a new paradigm of human-centric globalization. Our presidency's theme of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that is one earth, one family, one future, affirms the value of universal brotherhood and the dignity and interconnectedness of all forms of life. As guided by Prime Minister Modi, we should not just limit India's G20 presidency to isolated discussions among world leaders, but to make it a people's G20, a mass movement. I seek your support and the novelty of your ideas to inject youthful dynamism to our presidency's G20 agenda. I commend Shri Naveen Jindal for establishing the OP Jindal Global University, which has now become the top-ranked non-STEM private university in India, led by its dynamic Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. C. Raj Kumar. I am also pleased to note that OP Jindal Global University is the very first university in India to set up a permanent center for G20 studies, and that this center is led by a former Indian Foreign Service Officer, Ambassador Mohan Kumar. I wish the Center well both during India's presidency of the G20 and beyond. Friends, universities have an important role to play in the creation of the intellectual capital of a country. Education is fundamental for achieving full human potential, developing an equitable and just society, and promoting national development. From this perspective, I wish to take note of the fact that the current edition of the World Universities Summit has been conceptualized to create a platform for universities of G20 countries to come together to help shape the universities of the future. Technology, pedagogical innovations, and academic research are now changing the way higher education institutions function. This summit needs to reimagine the universities of the future in a way that they strengthen their commitment towards institutional resilience, social responsibility, and community impact. Providing universal access to quality education is the key to India's continued ascent and leadership on the global stage in terms of economic growth, social justice and equality, scientific advancement, national integration, and cultural preservation. Universal high-quality education is the best way forward for developing and maximizing our country's rich talents and resources for the good of the individual, the society, the country, and the world. India will have the highest population of young people in the world over the next decade, and our ability to provide high-quality educational opportunities to them will determine the future of our country and the world. The Global Education Development Agenda, reflected in the Goal 4 of the SDGs of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, seeks to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all by 2030. Such a goal will require the entire education system to be reconfigured to support and foster learning so that all of the critical targets and goals of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development can be achieved. This is where meetings such as the World Universities Summit that you are organizing can be extremely useful in providing valuable inputs to policymakers and practitioners alike. I understand that many vice chancellors and professors are participating in this summit. I would like to make use of this opportunity and dwell a little on the Indian government's national education policy, which was launched in July 2020. A number of reforms have been proposed in both the school as well as higher education section. NEP 2020 has proposed to establish a single overarching umbrella body for promotion of higher education. One of the key reforms relates to the internationalization of education, an area where OP Jindal Global University has had a lot of success. The other important area emphasized by the National Education Policy 2020 is professional education. For this to happen, higher educational institutions must become multidisciplinary institutions. For a country like India, the demographic dividend can be achieved only by universalizing youth and adult literacy, something the National Education Policy 2020 aimed to achieve. One of the things this World Universities Summit can do is also to exchange best practices regarding higher education among the G20 countries. We can all learn from one another in this regard. The idea that higher education should be both equitable and inclusive is a mantra in the national education policy and has great importance for a country like India. I am delighted to note that a panel discussion on the university support system to promote diversity and inclusion in higher education will take place. In a similar vein, other topics for panel discussions which caught my eye are innovations in G20 countries for internationalization of higher education, universities promoting equality and nurturing women leaders, education for all in the 21st century, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and values of global citizenship, Chat GPT and its implications for higher education, and the future of work, to name a few. These are profound issues facing society and indeed humanity. It is commendable that the World Universities Summit 2023 is deliberating on these existential issues with leading vice chancellors, professors, and scholars all over the world. Friends, the world is undergoing rapid changes. With various dramatic scientific and technological advances, such as the rise of big data, machine learning, and artificial intelligence, many unskilled jobs worldwide may be taken over by machines. The need for a skilled workforce, particularly involving mathematics, computer science, and data science, in conjunction with soft skills learned from social sciences and humanities disciplines, will be increasingly in greater demand. With climate change, increasing pollution, and depleting natural resources, there will be a sizable shift in how we meet the world's energy, water, food, and sanitation needs, again resulting in the need of new skilled labor, particularly in biology, chemistry, physics, agriculture, climate science, and social science. The growing emergence of epidemics and pandemics will also call for collaborative research in infectious disease management and development of vaccines, and the resultant social issues heightens the need for multidisciplinary learning. There will be a growing demand for social sciences, humanities, and arts as India moves towards becoming one of the 3 largest economies in the world. In conclusion, let me wish the World Universities Summit 2023, organized by the OP Jindal Global University, all the success it deserves. I wish you all a very productive discussion over the next 5 days. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir, for your thought-provoking words. Before we commence our thematic sessions for the day, I invite Professor Dr. Moushumi Mukherjee, Associate Professor and Deputy Director, International Institute for Higher Education, Research and Capacity Building at the OP Jindal Global University, to please share the vote of thanks. Over to you, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining the inaugural session of the 5-day-long World University Summit 2023. On behalf of Jindal Global Center for G20 Studies and the International Institute for Higher Education Research and Capacity Building, I extend sincere thanks to the Honorable Minister of State for External Affairs, Government of India, SHRI MURALEEDHARAN, for delivering his inaugural address, inspiring us to make India's G20 presidency as a people's movement for equity and inclusivity. I also thank the Secretary General of the Association of Indian Universities, Professor Dr. Pankaj Mittal, for delivering her special address reflecting on the aspirations of the students today and the need of the contemporary times. I thank the Dean and Director of Jindal Global Center for G20 Studies, Professor Dr. Mohan Kumar, for his introductory remarks on the challenges faced by the teaching community and universities. I thank the founding Vice Chancellor of OP Jindal Global University, Professor Dr. C. Raj Kumar, for his insightful welcome address on the theme of the conference and his leadership in steering all of us to organize the 2023 World University Summit. Finally, I thank the presenter of the inaugural session, Professor Surabhi Bhandari, and all other faculty and doctoral scholars who have worked tirelessly over the past several weeks to organize this conference. University is there to offer us opportunity for working together in a common pursuit of truth, sharing together our common intellectual heritage to enable us to realize that artists in all parts of the world have created forms of beauty, scientists discovered secrets of the material universe, philosophers solved the problems of existence, saints made spiritual truths organic in their lives, not merely for some particular race to which they belonged, but for all mankind. This quote from Rabindranath Tagore, written almost a century ago in 1934 for the Vishwabharati News, is now more relevant than ever before as we deliberate on the universities of the future, building institutional resilience, social responsibility, and community impact in G20 countries. We hope that this World University Summit will become a platform for reflection and deeper insights like this. Please join us again for the first panel session in 15 minutes at 11 a.m. IST. We have, in about 30 minutes at 11 a.m. IST, we have 4 distinguished speakers in this panel with the theme Navigating the Labyrinth, the University in a World in Polycrisis. And with this, we close this inaugural session. I hope all of you will have great learning over the past 5 days. We look forward to meet you again in the first panel. Namaste.
Thank you very much,
Mohan.
Dr. Mittal. Thank you so much for your presence, and thank you to the Honorable Minister. Thank you to all of you. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.